I think there is a confusion. What does mean schism? Many people have different meanings. What does mean schism? And even within the church, it's not yet clarified the issue. Therefore, we have to be careful in using this term. Usually, in the canon law, is said when a bishop or faithful are separating themselves from the unity with the chair of Peter. But neither Archbishop Lefebvre nor the Society of Pius X had this intention to separate themselves from Rome. On the contrary, they were always seeking that Rome will approve them. And this was basically in Archbishop Lefebvre until the last moment, before he did, asked the Holy Father with imploring him humbly to approve, to get approval from the Pope. So this was his intention. And he did this not to establish a parallel church. Schismatic means a parallel church without any link to Rome. But Archbishop Lefebvre always commanded his priests to pray for the Pope, and then still now they pray in every Holy Mass for the Pope Francis and for the local bishop also. And this is very Catholic. This is different from sedevacantism. Sedevacantists, they do not pray for the Pope. They refuse him. They do not recognize him, and also the local bishop. This is a basic and essential difference between the Society of Pius X and the sedevacantist groups. We have to keep this in mind. We cannot simply put them on the same level. It is unjust and not correct theologically. And so I repeat, the intention of Archbishop Lefebvre was to help the church with this consecration of bishops, which he felt a need in his conscience to do, even if he is disobedient of an order of the Pope. But we have to distinguish that disobedience is not always schismatic, and we have to be paying attention. It is really an emergency situation in the church, because basically it was the problem with the new Mass, which the Archbishop Lefebvre wanted in the entire church to be kept, and to have a sureness to preach the faith as it was always taught before the council, because unfortunately there are some, not so many, but ambiguous affirmations of doctrine in the council and the post-conciliar acts like the Assisi meeting and now others. And so we have to pay attention, this extraordinary emergency situation in the church. And then another aspect, that Pope Benedict XVI lifted formally the excommunication from the 4 bishops, because they were only excommunicated. They are not automatic excommunication for priests. They are not only suspended, but not excommunicated according to the church law and the faithful. If they adhere a schismatic intention, they can also be guilty of the faithful or the priests of schism. But this we have to prove. There is not a formal schismatic intention in the bishops and the priests of the Society of Pius X. They want to be with Rome, they visit Rome, they are in talks, and therefore Pope Francis sent 4 bishops 6 years ago to visit them, to have talks, to bring them closer to the reality of the, regularized canon aspects of this fraternity, Society of Pius X. I was one of the bishops who visited them. Bishop Wander, whom you mentioned also, Bishop and Cardinal Brandmüller, and a Spanish Archbishop. And in my knowledge, all the 4 visitators gave a basically positive report to the Pope Francis. And after this report, Pope Francis granted to the priests the faculties of confession. And therefore, it would be contradiction. How can the Pope grant ordinary faculties of confession, which implies a kind of jurisdiction to schismatic priests. It would be a contradiction. Or how can the Pope grant, or the archbishops to grant to schismatic priests the faculty to assist canonically matrimonies, which is also an act of jurisdiction. And even in the Pope Francis, when he granted this possibility of assisting matrimony, he already also permitted that a priest of the Society of Pius X, who witnessed canonically the matrimony, can after celebrate the nuptial mass legitimately. So then the Pope would say that these people of the wedding mass are all participating in a schismatic mass. It is absurd. We have to really to pay attention to all these aspects, and so this is a special situation. I think we have to be more comprehensible and understandable to the reality of the Society of Pius X, to help them to be more integrated and not to use a language which is offensive and which is not completely correct in labeling them schismatics. So therefore, I would more suggest that all the good people in the church start to collaborate more with the Society of Pius X, which Pope Francis gave already as an indication with these two faculties which he granted, and be together to defend the faith of all times and the liturgy of all times.